Welcome, friends. Welcome, family. What's up, Ma? Welcome, you guys. It's Friday. It's Friday here at the watch party. Glad you guys all could show up. And you know what it means when Friday comes along? This week kind of went by fast. First of all, pause to say that because I think maybe it was the week before last. It was the slowest week of my life. This week kind of moved by fast. We're already at Friday. Maybe it's the multitude of news that's jumped out in the past 2 to 3 days that's dominating most of what everyone is saying politically, where excuses are being made and all that's breaking down. So we need a good Friday. Did you guys get the post that I posted talking about how it's Friday and now you gotta find your drinks or whatever it is that you guys partake in? I'm not judging here. I got a new one. I got a new one. Let me switch over again to where I can see myself. New one. Ghost. We got a ghost energy drink. Except I have had ghost before, but this is straw bango. Yeah. I'm risking things lately. So it's a straw bango, which it's pretty obvious it's strawberry and mango. It's going to drive us through the hour today on the stream. I'm trying to get more variety in what it is that's been happening. I think maybe that's what my hangup was. I believe it was on Wednesday. I was moving kind of slow motion. I think I'm beginning to get tired of talking about the destruction this guy has on our economy and also the way that he's attacking folks in the streets. Just because it's fatigue on your brain. Not that we shouldn't talk about it anymore. I'm just tired. I'm tired of it, but it keeps happening. That's why we have to keep talking about this. We have to keep doing something next about it and pressuring people who are in positions of power to do something about it. Unlike the way that those Senate Democrats decided not to do anything about these issues anymore. So let's go ahead and jump right into the main thing that, of course, has been talked about consistently and accurately. I got to be honest. And how things are finally starting to break down a little bit now for these guys in the White House who've covered up these Epstein files and talked about how they don't want to do one thing that they said they were going to do. But let's start again where I think it's most important to start. Let's start with what is we've been seeing a lot of, yeah, we've been ignoring. And now that more information is coming out, I want to keep tying all these together. Do you guys remember this woman?
Stacey also went public in 2024 with accusations that Trump groped her in 1993 in front of Epstein at Trump Tower. Allegations, of course, Trump has denied. You did share disturbing details about that alleged incident in 1993. That's when you said Trump groped you in front of Epstein at Trump Tower, which you just referred to, Stacey. And you say that at the time, Epstein and Trump looked at each other when this happened to you, and they smiled. And that to you in that moment, it felt like a weird and twisted game. And then you say Trump pursued you afterwards, sending you a postcard with a picture of Palm Beach, saying, "Stacey, you're home away from home. Love, Donald." Mm-hmm. I mean, what did you mean, or what did that feel like when you say a weird, twisted game between the two?
So, I clearly was delivered there for the groping, and as I've mentioned before, I had shared with Jeffrey Epstein that I was somewhat combative with men in the fashion industry, photographers, men even on the streets who are inappropriate, and I would fight back. And Jeffrey also knew that I had model agents who would reprimand me for standing up to, inappropriate behavior with men. So I believe I was walked in there as a bit of a challenge because Donald Trump, was notorious for touching women and as he did to me in his office, and as he shared on the Access Hollywood tape in his own words, what he can get away with women. So I believe I was walked in there as a challenge. And when I froze and didn't respond, I think Jeffrey got very upset about it. He expected a fight.
There's Stacey Williams telling her story again of the interaction she had with Donald Trump, where Jeffrey Epstein, as she pointed out in her words, delivered her up there to Donald Trump in a dark office building at nighttime before she began work for Jeffrey Epstein. And there was Donald Trump with the story that she's told. Again, they mentioned at the beginning that she told that story originally publicly in 2024. Here it is, the back end of 2025. We're seeing these emails come out and more incriminating or connecting evidence that that these guys were close and tight and had all these connections and buddy relationships and womanizing thought processes and possessions that they felt they had over other human beings. All that stuff that sounds like a couple of traffickers. But again, I just want to show you guys again. That was her telling her story again, but it wasn't the first time. I'm going to show you guys how many things we've been ignoring.
There was an incident where Jeffrey asked me to go for a walk with him and then walk me into Trump Tower, where Donald proceeded to grope me while Jeffrey stood there and watched. And then afterwards, out on the street, Jeffrey berated me for allowing him to do it.
I'm considered number 27 on Donald Trump's 27 sexual assault victim. When I was doing Sports Illustrated, that's when he assaulted me. Jeffrey Epstein walked me into his office to be sexually assaulted by him.
We weren't listening when she kept telling those stories. We just weren't listening to them. So now that she's telling them again, and we're seeing all this other evidence that's coming forward to show how it is, now is the time, since the first time was to believe her then, I think now is the time to start believing all these folks that continue to come forward. Hey, here's Marjorie Taylor Greene. Marjorie Taylor Greene is apparently, as everyone has been saying, been on a warpath against this MAGA regime. And there's just one person left out that she hasn't been on a warpath against. And I've noticed it since the beginning. And it's this guy that leads the whole thing, the figurehead of everything, the guy who's running the country, the guy who thinks he can do anything that he wants. Maybe Marjorie Taylor Greene has finally turned a corner. Listen to her.
Do you think President Trump has something to hide here?
I don't, because I believe the women, and the women have said over and over again that Donald Trump did nothing wrong. Even Virginia Giuffre said it under oath, and she wrote it in her book. And so if we listen to the women, they say Donald Trump has done nothing wrong.
Do you think...
Was she listening to this woman named Stacey Williams? Was she listening to Maria Farmer? Was she listening to the other folks who said that they've had interactions with Donald Trump? There was another woman yesterday. I'm blanking on her name. Her last name was DeJorian. Yesterday, I played another video of a woman who said she was delivered to Donald Trump for the same instance that she was delivered to Jeffrey Epstein for trafficking purposes. I'm wondering at one point when this fire breather turning on her party, Marjorie Taylor Greene is going to finally start believing the women, because the one person that she doesn't believe is involved is the one that the women that she refuses to believe keep saying was involved. It's just weird how she never comes to the final thought about who it is that she's against. She's against Mike Johnson for sure. She's saying a lot of real things. I agree. She's saying a lot of things that make sense. She's blowing the lid off of all their schemes, the government shutdown, their lack of healthcare plans. She's been all over it. Marjorie Taylor Greene has been on fire. That is until that fire is Donald Trump. And then she's got nothing left for him. Matter of fact, she openly defends him like she just did there and uses those same women that she says she believes as the reasons why she doesn't believe them. Here's another woman. Her name is Julie Brown. She's an author, and she's written many things, as similarly Michael Wolff has, about these connections between Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein. She's been sifting through, I think they said there's about 20,000 pieces of information that's been released just this week that House Democrats let go of, and there's been a few emails that folks have been focusing in on. She gave more details as it was she's been looking through and what she's discovered about their closeness.
There are over 20,000 of them. One of the things that we noticed is if you check to see how many times Trump's name is contained in these documents, it's over 2,000 times that Trump's name is mentioned. Now, of course, this doesn't implicate him in any crimes or anything like that, but it does show how much room Trump held in Epstein's brain, so to speak, or how much Epstein was preoccupied with Trump. He mentions him virtually all the time, or people are emailing Epstein about Trump, trying to find out information as if Epstein is sort of the all-wise Trump expert. I think that this is why we need a Department of Justice and an FBI. I mean, quite frankly, this case should have never been closed. And there are still victims out there who have stories to tell about some of their abusers. So I think that it just puts a finer point on the fact that we need more answers, because these emails raise more questions.
It's good she's not coming to full-on conclusions. She mentioned also in that interview that there's many people who are showing these excerpts of emails or one email with one response and all this. And she said it's a little bit dangerous because people are coming up with their own conclusions. I agree. It's a little odd. People coming up with their own conclusions because there's just snippets and pieces of information. There's something that, folks can do. There's something that the Department of Justice can do. They can reveal a lot more of the information so that people don't have to assume, and Donald Trump doesn't have to whine and cry in the corner about how people are being unfair to him again and calling this a hoax that is right before then saying that it's real only when it comes to targeting Democrats. By the way, for the 18th time, of the Democrats, powerful people that are left-leaning or centrist or whatever it is, or could be considered Donald Trump's enemies, if they're on the list, let's expose them. It's a real simple conclusion we can come to every time they come with that nonsense too. So in order for this cover-up to keep happening, and in order for the backing of all these things to continue down, it's not just Mike Johnson who's carrying the water for Donald Trump. It's also people like Representative Carlos Jimenez. He's a Republican too. So here's his excuse as to why, as we're seeing the walls close in, it's getting more specific regarding Donald Trump and those 2,000 times that his name has been mentioned, that Epstein was obsessed with his big homie. Carlos Jimenez doesn't have much of an issue, and this is the reason why.
I have no problem in releasing, the files that they have. I know that they've also run into the court system. The court system, some of the files they can't release because then it would put in jeopardy the names of a lot of the victims, and they want their privacy. And so whatever files can be released should be released. We need to put this behind us. This drib and drab that comes out every once in a while, it's another story, etc. Like I said before, if there was something in there that somehow implicated, the President Trump, the Biden administration would have shown it to us during their time when they had control of the files. I have no problems in releasing those files, as long as the court system says they're eligible to be released.
Why does this White House then, do you think, why are they fighting to not release it?
Look, like I said, I don't know why there's a fight, but the American people need to know the truth, whatever it is and whoever it is. And so again, I'm very confident that the president is not implicated in this, and that because if he was, again, the Biden administration would have let us know that, a long time ago.
You see how pretzels work when you have to have a talking point come out, and there was a simple question that was asked as a follow-up that sent him into knots. So the reasons why that he's confident Donald Trump has nothing to do with this, despite all the things that we're seeing, is that Joe Biden would have released all that during his term. That's based in Representative Jimenez's own brain. So we're supposed to believe that because that's his assumption. He can have that assumption. It doesn't mean that it's factual. It just means that's his assumption. So who cares? You're just this guy who came up with an assumption. So we could actually get the information and then find out if you're right or if you're wrong, or we can just believe you saying that for the sake of covering up for that guy. But when asked specifically again, so how come this president who's in office right now, who ran on releasing it, is not releasing it, since Joe Biden would have done it? And Donald Trump says he's the antithesis of Joe Biden, and everything Joe Biden did is destructive and nasty and despicable. Why is he acting like Joe Biden right now? But all I had to say was that Joe Biden would have done it, as he wrapped his ass right back to the same argument. In other words, no answer to the question. The saddest part about this is that he sounds a lot like Stephen A. Smith in asking these questions about what they're so upset about. We have to find out the real reasons why these Democrats didn't do what they were supposed to do. Now that this Republican administration is now cornered with their own promises. I try not to play Stephen A. Smith, but I just want to make a point here.
Ladies and gentlemen, keep in mind that the Epstein files were in existence and free to have been opened during the Biden administration. You were there for 4 years. How come you didn't open it as a Democratic Party then? What am I missing? I'm not saying I know. It's a legitimate question. Maybe I don't remember the answer. Maybe my extraordinary producers should be able to help me during the commercial break. But from my understanding, the same files that were open or being open now with the 220 pages of documents or whatever it is, with various emails, that could have been done when Biden was in office. Well, why didn't you do it? If it's so important now. What were the Democrats doing at that particular moment in time? This is the kind of stuff that smells. Because my attitude is just deducing how much they despise Trump is if there was some real bona fide dirt on him, since you went after him with the 34 felony convictions, which essentially was deduced to him paying hush money to Stormy Daniels, a porn star, just so she wouldn't reveal their happenings with one another leading up to the election in 2016. Okay? If you had something like that you were willing to parade him through the streets with, of course, if you had something on him about Epstein, you'd have let it go earlier to make sure he didn't become the 47th president. That's just my thinking from a logical perspective. But what do I know?
Apparently, Stephen A. Smith doesn't know much. But before we get to what he doesn't know and why he doesn't know it, he said this kind of stuff smells. So he's not just asking a question honestly the way he said he's asking the question honestly. There's a lot of people who have this hang up with protecting powerful, rich, old pedophiles. And I guess Stephen A. Smith is one of them. But just because you yell on the microphone and go, what am I missing? What am I missing? What's going on? Just because you say things like that doesn't actually make the point any better. So if you ask the question, maybe your crack staff of producers could also tell you, if that's smelly, is it smelly for this current administration to have multiple strategy meetings about how they can avoid releasing the information? Is it smelly for the vice president to have then hidden the fact that they had one of these strategy meetings to talk about how they can avoid it? Is it smelly that when there was all these Epstein survivors standing out in front of the Capitol talking about how they want these things released, and that same president that you're protecting right now was inside talking about how it's a hoax and everything is on the up and up? I'm trying to figure out, is that smelly? Was it fucking smelly when he sent his deputy attorney general to go talk to Ghislaine Maxwell, who's Jeffrey Epstein's right-hand woman in this child sex trafficking ring, when he talked to her and then put her in this minimum security prison in exchange for her saying nice things about him, which we've discovered in these emails is a contradiction of reality. If all that doesn't smelling to you, Stephen A. Smith, you're not fucking sniffing. But because he yelled, it makes some more sense. I don't know. Hey, here's someone doing a lot more calm than I did. I apologize. I yelled too. Here's Julie K. Brown. She's a Miami Herald journalist, and she's done these investigations as well. Okay, we'll answer Stephen A. Smith's question then. Here's the first part of what she said. She goes, this is a complicated case with a lot of files, so I know it's easy to confuse what's what. What Stephen doesn't understand is that the emails released Wednesday are from Epstein's estate. They were obtained from Epstein's lawyers pursuant to a subpoena that was issued by the House Oversight Committee. These are the lawmakers, in case she has to let him know that. These documents are separate from the criminal case files held by the DOJ and the FBI that Trump and Pam Bondi promised to release after the election. So if he is thinking that where's all this information now not coming from, they had to force it out because the people in power are trying to actively cover it up. So let's go to that whole thing about Biden administration, why it wasn't released then. It's a question that's multiple times being asked. Representative Jimenez pointed it out too. He wasn't asking it. He was using it as a crutch to not have to talk about it anymore. Here's more of Julie K. Brown. As for why Biden and the Democrats didn't release the criminal case files, Maxwell's criminal case was still open during the Biden administration. She wasn't convicted until late 2021, and then she appealed her conviction. Generally, it's not a good idea to open your evidence files when a criminal case is ongoing. We also don't know whether the FBI was still investigating other possible suspects who helped Epstein or participated in his crimes. If you're still targeting suspects, you don't want them to know you're zeroing in on them. But let's go back to more speculation, since all that factual stuff is probably something they're going to gloss over. What about Joe Biden's Department of Justice and his Attorney General give you the impression that they're looking to go after Donald Trump to the degree to put his ass in jail? Because they had him on all these counts. They had him on all kinds of things. Not by the way, not the Department of Justice, but folks in New York that prosecuted him. So after those people went after him, one specifically being Letitia James, that they're incensed about and busted his ass multiple times, uh, they didn't go to that next step of looking to arrest that convicted criminal because he's a presidential candidate, because he's Donald Trump, because he's above the law. What is it about their energy where it was giving Donald Trump free passes after he was convicted of so many different things gives you the thought that the Biden DOJ was going to come after Donald Trump? Do you know who gave you that idea? Donald Trump gave you that idea when he said, "This is the biggest attack on someone ever. This DOJ is coming after me constantly. This is lawfare," all that stuff. So in order for you to believe that stuff, it's weird that you have to listen to the guy who's being targeted and was a 34-time felon. It's weird how in order to come up with your answers, you have to listen to the guy who was, lost. So let's listen more to the guy that lost. Because like I said, the walls are closing in. This is his latest post. I think he was silent, someone said, for like a solid 24 hours, which is not like him. Here's the panic post number 1. The Democrats are doing everything in their withering power to push the Epstein hoax again, despite the DOJ releasing 50,000 pages of documents in order to deflect from all of their bad policies and losses, especially the shutdown embarrassment, where their party is in total disarray and has no idea what to do. Some weak Republicans have fallen into their clutches because they are soft and foolish. Epstein was a Democrat, and he is the Democrats' problem, not the Republicans' problem, asked Bill Clinton, Reid Hoffman, and Larry Summers about Epstein. They know all about him. Don't waste your time with Trump. I have a country to run. So look for Donald Trump possibly this weekend running his ass, not the country, but his huge ass off to Mar-a-Lago somewhere, probably to have another party, or maybe to golf a little bit more, that kind of running that he's doing. But he wants you guys to start paying attention to all these other folks that if you pay attention to them, cool, pay attention to them. How about you pay attention to all of them? It's more of the same stuff. So let me show you guys one more piece from Representative Jimenez, since his first thing was being so sure that the reasons why he's confident that Donald Trump has nothing to do with this is because of Joe Biden's DOJ. Let's see if he has any issues with what it is that we have been seeing getting revealed.
The emails that were released talking about him don't raise any questions for you?
Not right now, no. Not they don't raise, the ones that I read is somebody said, hey, somebody's seeking information. You can either protect him or you can throw him under the bus. And I think that's somebody giving legal advice to Epstein to see how what works best for him.
The email where Epstein is saying to Maxwell that Trump spent hours at Epstein's house with someone whose name was redacted, who Republicans are now saying was Virginia Giuffre.
Right, and she has said that any time that she spent with him, he did absolutely nothing wrong. So there you have it.
There you have it. Except he doesn't want you to realize that his first answer to that question about do you have any issue with these things that are coming out from these emails? First, he has no idea anything about the emails. Did you notice that? Well, whatever it is that I haven't read. I don't know. I can't really say. Haven't know. There's always the I don't know defense when you don't want to answer the question. But again, the very easy follow-up question was about how they've said that it's Virginia Giuffre that was mentioned in that email where Jeffrey Epstein said that Donald Trump was at Mar-a-Lago alone, or his house, at his house alone with that said victim. Suddenly, Representative Jimenez knows everything about that because he was told that talking point that other Republicans have said, if they bring up the whole thing about him hanging out with one of the victims at Jeffrey Epstein's house, say that it was Virginia Giuffre, and then she always said that he was on the up and up. How is it that you knew about that when you said you haven't heard about anything yet? It's because he's there to protect Donald Trump, who, by the way, with this next post that he posted the same day, take 10 to 15 minutes later, he's not looking to protect himself by saying things like this. He says the Democrats are doing everything in their power. Oh, this is the same one. Hold on, let's go to the next one. There's another one where he wants to go after Larry Summers and Reed Hoffman. Maybe it was the same one. I thought he did two of them. I have my second one here. I'm gonna bring it back later. I'm bringing it up before you guys get back. He posted 2 times about how he's going to direct his DOJ to go right after the people that he despises, just them. So is it this DOJ that's targeting towards certain folks that he dislikes, or is it Joe Biden's DOJ? Because he keeps telling us that it's his DOJ, that he's directing to do anything that he wants them to do. Anyways, I'm mad that I didn't get that second one. Still, there's more protectionism going on around this president. Again, I want to have a quick reset. We've seen this trove of more information coming out, not from the DOJ. It's more incriminating looking evidence and connections to how close Donald Trump was with Jeffrey Epstein, which, again, we already knew. We've got multiple survivors coming forward telling accounts of how they were assaulted by Donald Trump, who were introduced to him through Jeffrey Epstein for the purpose of these types of things. It's like all out there. It's all out there. And what Mike Johnson wants you to think is that all those people have all been coordinated and orchestrated by Democrats. You know why? Because Donald Trump told him to say that.
On the Epstein thing, look, we put a UC on the floor, a unanimous consent to just dispense with the discharge petition, just get it passed by everyone. The Democrats objected to it on the floor. I did that. I put that on the floor. They objected to it. If they were really about transparency and honesty, and they had this great urgency about it, they would have voted to let that be done. It has never been about that. It's been about politics. They're trying to attack the president. They're trying to manufacture some sort of hoax that he had something to do with Epstein, and it is absurd. This has been going on way too long. Look, if they cared so much about the victims of Epstein, why didn't any of these Democrats who are howling and screaming and all the media types, why didn't they go for the files during the 4 years of the Biden administration? The Biden DOJ had every single one of these documents, and they never did a darn thing about it. You never heard any of these people say a word about it. They don't care about that. They care about going after Donald Trump because they have Trump derangement syndrome. It's very real, and it sort of encompasses all of Washington.
It's the same talking points. It's over and over again. And you have to wrap up with Trump derangement syndrome, because I guess that snaps something in these folks' minds to make them think, oh, everything that I've been seeing, all the damning evidence that's been coming forward, all the ways that he's trying to manipulate his argument around this that don't make any sense, though I can forget all that because Mike Johnson's lying ass said Trump derangement syndrome. Hey, by the way, guys, I found that other post from Donald Trump. Let me revert back for a second because I want to show the panic and the way that he thinks these threats are going to get him off the hook. There's one good way to get him off the hook. Show us all that stuff. But this is probably what we're going to get when he's fully cornered. Here's what he posted. Like I said, probably like 10 or 15 minutes after that first one, calling it a hoax, right? You know, he'll do that again. Here it comes. He says, now that the Democrats are using the Epstein hoax involving Democrats, not Republicans, to try and deflect from their disastrous shutdown and all their other failures, I'll be asking AG Pam Bondi and the Department of Justice, together with our great patriots at the FBI, to investigate Jeffrey Epstein's involvement and relationship with Bill Clinton, Larry Summers, Reid Hoffman, JP Morgan, Chase, and many other people and institutions to determine what was going on with them and him. This is another Russia scam with all arrows pointing to the Democrats. Records show that these men and many others spent large portions of their life with Epstein and on his, quote, island. Stay tuned. Have at it, bro. Have at it. Because those records show that. And so do all these records from the Epstein estate show that. Maybe answer for why you let Jeffrey Epstein, who had all this involvement with Larry Summers, Bill Clinton, Reid Hoffman, JP Morgan, and many other people and institutions, maybe find out why he was talking about you all the time. He just brings you up all the time for no reason. It's not going to work. People see through it at this point, and I'm heartened that finally people are seeing it for what it really is. This guy has been exposed, and now it's just spin time. There's an energy, though, that's going on here. And I want to focus on that at the back end of this whole Epstein thing, because the reason I'm so frustrated by watching all this unfold and what we're seeing in front of us being ignored, and I'm gonna show you why so many people, they feel, can buy into this and not really be upset about it. This guy, Kevin O'Leary, he tends to defend Donald Trump. I want to show you guys what kind of where the focus is for these rich, connected people who they think are the real victims in this whole scandal.
Let's just look at facts, because I mean, everybody has a political position on this. Epstein's still dead tonight, still dead. All the people that have been really hurt by this actually were caught lying in a scandal, including a member of the royal family who was stripped of his titles, all that.
Say that again. All the people that were really hurt.
Yeah.
But the people that were really hurt are the women, Kevin.
Yeah, and I'm
The
not,
young girls.
I don't think
who
having
want
sex.
closure and want truth and want
Let me finish,
transparency.
or are you got something
Yeah, but
more
you're
to say?
the people hurt is not
Thank
Prince
goodness
Andrew.
you're
That's
here.
hold on. No, but that's ridiculous for you to say that the person hurt is Prince Andrew.
Kevin, is that what you were?
I'm
Is that what
trying
you're
to finish
trying to
a
say?
thought. Work with me on this, okay? Work
Okay,
with
well,
me.
make sense though, please.
No, I'm going to help you so much tonight. So at the end of the day,
Good luck with that.
Let's just.
He didn't like being challenged by what he said. Maybe he didn't realize how that sounded. And when you get told what it is you're saying and how it sounds, it's a good idea to then think about it, pull it back, and then clear it up. Instead, he's too stubborn and egotistical to do that. But Kevin O'Leary, he says the biggest victims from this whole thing are people like Prince Andrew, are these other rich and powerful connected people who don't want their lives destroyed. They're the biggest victims in this whole thing. I think it's pretty clear the way that they see the actual victims of this whole thing, and someone who stands up to them, like Anna Navarro had to do there. Work with me here. He was embarrassed and probably did see the issue with what it is that he's saying, but he can't pull back now. He's in full defensive mode. Sadly, it's not just people like Kevin O'Leary that are part of this. I posted this yesterday, and I think it's worth seeing again. The level of defense that's coming in, the wagons are circling around Donald Trump so much that it's starting to extend beyond just Donald Trump. Pretty soon, Jeffrey Epstein is going to become a beloved figure of MAGA.
As for Epstein, I've said this before, but just as a reminder, I do know somebody very, very close to this case who is in a position to know virtually everything. Not everything, but virtually everything. And this person has told me from the start, years and years ago, that Jeffrey Epstein, in this person's view, was not a pedophile. This is this person's view, who was there for a lot of this, but that he was into the barely legal type. Like he liked 15-year-old girls. And I realize this is disgusting. I'm definitely not trying to make an excuse for this. I'm just giving you facts. That he wasn't into like 8-year-olds, but he liked the very young teen types. And it wasn't until we heard from Pam Bondi that they had tens of thousands of videos of alleged, forgive me, they used to call it kiddie porn. Now they call it child sexual abuse material on his computer, that for the first time I thought, oh no, he was an actual pedophile. I mean, only a pedophile gets off on young children abuse videos. I don't know what's true about him, but we have yet to see anybody come forward and say, I was I was under 10. I was under 14 when I first came within his purview. Look, you can say that's a distinction without a difference.
No, it's not.
I think there is a difference. There's a difference between a 15-year-old and a 5-year-old.
They're starting to cope. I also played Megyn Kelly talking with Ben Shapiro the other day about how, just in case, I think it's somewhere in the middle. I'm trying to figure out where all the issues are. So now when you have to defend the level of pedophilia of Jeffrey Epstein, it's starting to soften the blow a little bit here, right? It's starting to make it seem like, so whatever it is we find out, as long as they're like 15, maybe 14, then it's just a little weird and not super pedophilic type of behavior. It's not all that. It's just, at least those 5-year-olds, maybe I can have an issue with it. But at least, all these powerful people, what it is that they liked was barely legal, according to Megyn Kelly. 15-year-olds are barely legal? I don't know. I guess in MAGA circles, 15-year-olds are barely legal. If you have a 15-year-old girl, are you thinking, yo, it's fine, honey? There's a 35, 40-year-old guy out here who likes barely legal girls. So he's not a pedophile. He's not weird at all, but I'll let you go ahead and hang out with him. For some reason, that has to be that's the new norm for these folks. It has to be highlighted because they say this shit out loud and proudly. They say it out loud and proudly so that they can start seeming normal. Keep calling it what it is. It's nasty, despicable behavior. Here's Megyn Kelly before she got fired from her Megyn Kelly Today show. She's been bitter and pissy ever since because she used to say things that made a little bit more sense when she was trying to look more normal. Now she's all MAGA. She has to go all with things like that. Here's a flashback.
I think it's as hard as it is for women like those that Charlie allegedly harassed to stand up for themselves in the moment and thereafter. And it is so hard. It's so hard, especially for young women not in powerful positions. The time has come. The time has come. We are in the middle of an empowerment revolution in this country. And the only way forward is for women to get comfortable throwing some sharp elbows, making waves and taking risks and holding the powerful to account. It is not, yeah. I think it's.
Even you could tell she was waiting on the applause. She goes, I need an applause line here. This is going to make the clip perfect. When we replay this, it's going to be great. When they start clapping, yeah, yes, thank you. Really helps wrap up my fake ass. Who knows? Maybe she was being real then, and now she's being fake. Who knows who Megyn Kelly is? Who knows? But one thing she is afraid of Donald Trump and is in full protection mode, apparently, of Jeffrey Epstein and his proclivities. It's just one of those things. It's fine as long as you're on their side of it. Let's shift. This video came across my feed yesterday. I saw the beginning of it and I was like, oh yeah, you know, these are situations people are in. And then I kept watching it and it just kept getting worse. This is the fight that was being had that wasn't fully completed over that government shutdown. This is the argument that Democrats were making. This is the argument now that Republicans are saying that Donald Trump specifically said was this big, huge loss and folding by the Democratic senators, which they did, except this is what they folded. These are the people that they folded against when they were supposed to be protecting their health care. These are some of their stories. I'm sure tons of people have very similar ones. Watch this.
I was sitting out in my office and I feel like my chest caved in. I was just like, oh my God, this is insane.
Her family's monthly premium up $2,000 overnight.
I was expecting my costs to maybe double, maybe go up to 500, maybe at the most 600, but to see it over 1,000 was beyond shocking.
I'm actually really anxious about what it looks like to not have my mental health medication because I can't afford the $600 a month. That's half my rent.
I got long COVID. It's going to be about 40% of my income come January 1st. I don't know what I'm going to do if this doesn't get fixed.
In my state of Vermont, we're hearing that people are looking at a tripling or a quadrupling of the health insurance premiums.
I have a rare type of adult asthma called eosinophilic asthma.
Your insurance premium will increase by nearly 1,000%.
Such a jarring, sudden change with only maximum 2 months warning. It's hard to imagine.
We currently pay $282 and some change. I just logged on this past week and I was finally able to see what the premiums are going to go up to. And if we keep the same plan, it'll go up to $1,003 a month for just health insurance.
So $4,170 a month, what would that be for you for a whole year? So $50,000 a year. Can you afford that?
No.
It just comes at the cost of my financial future in a way.
We will subsidize it out of our savings account until we can sell the house.
This is unspeakable.
This issue of the expiring enhanced tax credits needs to be solved like yesterday.
As you can tell, Bernie Sanders and those folks put out that video where they talked to the folks about the issues that they're now facing because of this government and our elected officials' lack of care for what is that folks are going through with this now explosion of healthcare costs. I don't want you guys to forget. this is all happening and everyone else is being blamed, and that program and the third, and we know Republicans are targeting the ACA, but they don't want to talk about it very much. Those are the real life stories of people that they're writing off as just saying, maybe fraud, waste, and abuse. Maybe you should get a job, or that's not really happening to you is one of the main things that they keep saying. So even though it's happening to them, what's the next step you can take when the people that you're supposed to be telling to represent you give you a couple of middle fingers? Hey, here's this liar. Here he is doing his normal talking points in response to their lives.
I haven't, and there's a lot of reasons why. First of all, the Unaffordable Care Act has failed the American people. It did exactly the opposite of what they all promised as it would do. The Democrats broke the American healthcare system. The reason your premiums are skyrocketing is because they have terrible policies, and one of them is subsidizing insurance companies. That's what this COVID-era subsidy was all about. Remember, the Democrat Party created this on their own. They're the ones that put the expiration date on it, December 31 of this year, because they knew it was a boondoggle. There was no way they could justify that being permanent policy. So what we have said is if there was going to be an extension of that, it would need massive reforms. You need some income caps on that. You should not be subsidizing healthcare for wealthy people. And also you need all sorts of reforms on it. You need high protections on those things and other innovations. So the Republican Party has known this is going to expire at the end of the year, as everyone in Congress has. We were always preparing to work through that in a deliberative fashion through October, November, December. But ironically, the Democrats, because of their shenanigans, took a lot of the time off the clock on that for us to do it. So we're working on it in earnest. It is the Republican Party that will bring down healthcare costs, not the Democrats.
Do you guys remember what the healthcare was like before the ACA came along? And when the ACA was being debated, how much Republicans, their stance was nothing. But Mike Johnson, that's why their answer was nothing. It's also why many of these Republican states sabotaged the exchanges for Medicare access through the ACA for their states so that people could suffer. Let's not forget how they went about it. They were a part of giving input into how the ACA was going to come together so that they could sabotage it, make it look bad, at least as bad as it could possibly be. It definitely wasn't what the full argument from people like Bernie Sanders was, which was universal health care for folks. So all this talk about what Mike Johnson wants to change, we shouldn't be subsidizing rich people's health care. Rich people should be paying their taxes, just like middle-class people should be paying their taxes. And then after those taxes get paid, your contributions to this country based off of the amount of money that you've made, those things would go into our system. And yes, rich people could have access to our healthcare system as well. Why not? They're paying for it. Instead, we make a bunch of loopholes that are available for people like Donald Trump to not pay their taxes. And then when they don't, they say, how come all these poor people are dealing with all these issues? I want my money back. So as you heard, the purpose is to bash the ACA, which again, you can do that. There's lots of issues with it. Afterwards, what is your plan? That's the constant question we should keep asking. Let's see if this guy has one.
Subsidizing the insurance companies is not the answer because it just drives the cost up even further. So we need to look at the root causes. The Republican Party is the party that is working on that, has been working on it, and has more ideas going forward. We got to bring down the costs. And you can do that in a responsible way that also increases access and quality of care. And we got notebooks full of ideas on how to do that. We got to build consensus around it.
Last one. Notebooks of ideas. All he's got is notebooks of ideas full of stuff on him. And it's teeming, like our notebooks are overflowing. We can't figure out how to organize all these plans. For that whole month, over a month that they had off, it's weird how he wasn't telling his people to come up with some ideas and some plans, maybe put something down on paper, maybe give them something they could answer for after their demands are met about how they want Democrats, which they did, to fold to them and give them all their power back to continue screwing people over. Here's this guy, Representative Pat Harrigan. He got the talking point as well to talk about the ACA. And I guess they need to develop some talking point better than fraud, waste, and abuse as their answer. I want you to listen to the question that's asked of him and then see if you can find the answer to that question.
House Republicans signed a letter to Speaker Mike Johnson, and I want to read part of it and get your take on it. They said this, that after the shutdown, quote, we should immediately turn our focus to the growing crisis of healthcare affordability and the looming expiration of the Enhanced Affordable Care Act premium tax credits. Millions of Americans are facing drastic premium increases due to short-sighted Democratic policymaking. While we did not create this crisis, we have now have both the responsibility and the opportunity to address it. What is the Republican plan then to address healthcare costs in this country?
Well, I agree with part of that statement from a group of centrist Republicans that are concerned about the cost of healthcare overall, but I disagree with them that the solution is some sort of extension to these Affordable Care Act subsidies that were really for the emergency COVID period and for the emergency COVID period only. We understand we got to come to the conclusion, right, just on its surface, that if we are demanding these emergency subsidies become permanent for the Affordable Care Act to actually be affordable, then it goes without much difficulty in understanding that the Affordable Care Act is actually not affordable. And that's what we have to all recognize. And look, this is something that I think Republicans have failed with in the past, is we've not provided a good or reasonable alternative, but we certainly have never supported the Affordable Care Act because what's in it and the things that underpin it that prop it up, like these temporary subsidies, seem to always have to become permanent and become permanent in such a terrible way where we're not giving this money to the American people. We're giving this money to large insurance companies. Look, there's no question that healthcare is unaffordable. We have got to take this next year and work together to make healthcare affordable. I think that means a fairly radical departure from the Affordable Care Act. We've got a year to figure this out, or Republicans will be held accountable for it in the 2026 elections. I think there's no question about that.
Checkpoint. Talk about the ACA, then talk about the ACA. Then after you talk about the ACA, then say the Republicans have always been against the ACA. What you didn't hear there from the question was, when is this plan coming from Republicans about what is it they want to do? We got it. We got it. You guys hate the ACA after you made sure that it was already from like not that effective to really not that effective. So since that's what you've got, what is your answer? His only answer went right back to, yeah, I mean, I do agree. We haven't had much to say. You're one of those folks that hasn't had much to say. Why haven't you said anything yet? Where's your answer, bro? All they've got is the ACA sucks. We got it. So the reason I played those folks in their situations, if their healthcare skyrocketing at the beginning of this whole thing, is so that every time you hear these guys dance around the answer of what is it that they want to do, refer back to those folks who said, next month, I don't know where I'm going to get my prescriptions from. I don't know what I'm going to do about my mental health prescriptions. I don't know what my kid is going to do. Things are going to skyrocket so much. I've got a rare asthma condition. I can't afford $600 for the medication. Remember all of those people, as Pat Harrigan said, we have a year to figure this out before the midterms come around, and we can lie to you enough as possible to make you think we give a damn. He said more.
And I know you don't approve of, and you wouldn't agree and support the extension of the enhanced ACA subsidies, but would you temporarily support them for perhaps a year while everyone in the House hammers this out and maybe provides something more substantial when it comes to fighting healthcare costs in this country? Because it doesn't seem like, as of now, the House is really good at compromising.
No, I won't support them because they don't solve the problem in any way, shape, or form. I mean, this is what we've got to understand, is that even for those who are getting subsidies, the expiration of these emergency subsidies only affects 5% of those people that are getting subsidies. This in no way, shape, or form impacts the 75% of Americans that actually can't afford healthcare. And so I'm not in the business up here. My constituents do not want me to put Band-Aids on significant bleeding wounds and say that our job here as politicians is done. That's not the type of performative politics that I was elected to perform up here. I was actually elected to actually make demonstrable change and increase positive outcomes for my constituents. And that's what I intend to do. I'm by no means a healthcare expert, but I do know the free market solves a lot of the problems that we have. And when we can increase competition and we can increase consumer choice.
What happens? How do you do that? And what makes these insurance companies that you say have a free market that pays so many politicians to do their bidding? What makes you think that they're suddenly going to just do the right thing? It's always been the Republican approach when it comes to huge businesses, but they're acting like they don't support the huge healthcare insurance industry. They're acting like they're not paid by them. They're acting like they're somehow against it. But when that United Healthcare CEO got shot in New York, I believe, and the whole Luigi Mangione situation went crazy, I remember a whole bunch of politicians, left and right, were appalled by how an American could do something like this. How can this happen? We've really gone off the rails. I can't understand why people would go after a healthcare CEO. But now, look how they're talking about the healthcare industry as if they're against it. But when someone took matters in their own hands after they got screwed around by that same healthcare industry, they were like, what's the world coming to? These are our brightest and our best. You see how the pretzel keeps twisting and we're not supposed to understand what is it they're doing to us? I'm sorry. I've got one more clip from this liar here.
So when would this ban? I know you don't want a band-aid. So when would the permanent fix be in place? Because people are seeing what their premiums would be next year and are saying, oh my God, I can't afford this. I'm going to have to make some tough choices here when it comes to my healthcare. I mean, what do you say to those people, and what's the fix for 2026?
Well, you've got to educate them that it's not a binary choice. It's not, if we don't get these enhanced subsidies re-upped for another year, my healthcare is going to go up. No, your healthcare is going to go up. I mean, that's what people, I think, fundamentally don't understand. This is not, these subsidies are not actually a stopgap to prevent healthcare costs from increasing sharply this year. Healthcare costs are increasing sharply because the Affordable Care Act is failing, and it's failing in real time. And so, look, again, just to be as completely clear and honest with you as I possibly can, I don't take the House healthcare system because it's actually too expensive. It doesn't make any sense for me and my family. And we actually use an Affordable Care Act carve out that is called a health sharing ministry to provide for my family's healthcare, because it's a reasonable and actually affordable, and it really does work.
Again, the question was, when are you going to finally come up with this permanent solution since the ACA sucks? He never once answered the question. Never. He never did. He damn near 2 minutes every time this guy spoke. He never answered the question because they don't have an answer. Not because they can't come up with one, because they don't want to come up with one. Because that same big bad healthcare industry that's paying them to do nothing continues to pay them to do nothing about it. Except now they have to get a little bit more creative with how they say they're against what it is that they're perpetuating. But we're too busy worried about our jobs, our food on the table, car repairs, how you're going to get around, all schooling, your child's health care, daycare, all that is happening. So how much can we really pay attention to guys like this who are just going on TV saying the big bag boogeyman is the ACA? And the healthcare industry is going to, your healthcare costs are going to skyrocket again. What are they going to skyrocket to? And who is in control of how much it is that people will have to pay? And are they paying you? These are questions they don't expect people to ask. So let me finish up with this. Let me just wrap up with this. Since Harrigan's talking all this, since Mike Johnson's talking all this, and their plans that are supposed to be secret, and we don't know when it's going to happen because of how bad that could be, I want to remind you guys of how long it's been and how many times the leader of their party, their king, has talked about replacing the ACA. Listen to the time frames that were given.
No choice but to absolutely replace Obamacare, and we're going to come up with a much better plan. We're going to come up with a great health plan, and this is a great plan. Wait till you see the plans we have coming out literally over the next 4 weeks. We have a plan coming out, an additional plan coming out in a very short period of time. We're going to have fantastic health care, and the plan is coming out over the next 4 weeks. We're signing a health care plan within 2 weeks.
9 years after you first started running, do you have a plan, and can you tell us what it is?
Obamacare was lousy health care.
So just a yes or no, you still do not have a plan?
I have concepts of a plan. You already have a concept of a plan, and it'll be much better. Tell you with the plan. Yeah, well, we'll be announcing that in about 2 months.
Since 2016. Oh, it's playing again. Hold on. Since 2016. 2 weeks. Very shortly. Soon. Real soon. Quickly. Make your head spin. Your head is spinning every time you see these new skyrocketing costs for your healthcare. That's what's making people's heads spin. But this guy keeps giving promises of when the next thing is going to happen. Did you notice yet? Did you notice all this, the way that he talks about it, the delays and the next one? And I can't tell you the plans yet. And all I know is that the ACA sucks. Did you notice they're all mimicking him? And when you're mimicking the dumbest guy in the country, you're going to sound just as dumb. It's inevitable. It's stupid shit that he says. So if you repeat it, you're also saying the same stupid shit. I had a whole extra story to go. I had a whole third thing to get into. Brother gaslighting about our economy. But I got like 5 minutes to the top of the hour. I know many of you guys may take off, but I'm going to do it, bro. It's Friday. I only got through like half of the straw bango, which isn't bad, by the way. Straw bango, not bad. But if you guys are taking off for the damage report, I'm going to get to one more story to go over by about 10 minutes, maybe at best. But before you guys take off, go ahead, like that. I'm gonna like the stream too. I keep forgetting to do it, bro. Well, how am I gonna give you guys that and not do it myself? Like it, share it, come back, check out these stories that if you missed this economic story that I'm gonna do at the back end now, it's gonna be up before the day is up. So you guys can check that out. Share it to the folks that maybe need to see and hear about things that maybe you didn't see and hear about. I'm gonna jump into it now, but if you guys are taking off, tell John I say hey, and we're still partying over here because of the Friday, bro. We go after hours on Fridays and then sometimes on Tuesdays and Wednesdays and Thursdays. Not Mondays, though. All right, let's go ahead and get started. See you guys if you're taking off. Love you. But let's get in this last little story here. JD Vance was sitting down with Sean Hannity. He had some things to say about our economy.
Maybe are still suffering from the Biden-Harris economic hangover. Sure. When do we really see the engine of the economy start to take off?
Well, some of it's already started, Sean, but some of it is going to take a long time because we inherited a disaster. We inherited the highest peacetime debt and deficits in the history of the United States of America. We inherited the worst inflation crisis in at least the last 40 years, and I think probably longer. So a lot of Americans, when we took over, they were struggling. They either were underemployed or they didn't have a job altogether. Their wages had been stagnant. And the President of the United States said the most important thing that we have to fix is for people to be able to live a good life. We need to.
It's empty talk. JD Vance, they inherited a bad crisis. And did you hear the time frame for when it's going to be great? Sometime soon. Who knows? It's just going to happen. But the problem is they inherited a crisis. Last I heard, Donald Trump was a magic man. Donald Trump was going to get things happening so fast. It's going to be immediate. It's going to be within 24 hours. It's going to be so fast. But not now. Maybe the next question should be, I understand you guys said this was going to happen in a day. So now that it's been all year and things have actually gotten worse, do you have an answer yet? Or should we have not believed you in the first place? Why did you lie to us? Why didn't you tell us it's going to take a full year now that you're saying it's going to take a full year, or maybe even to the next year, or maybe the year after that? At least there's progress, because at least JD Vance said that there's issues, because I keep hearing from them that it's a golden age and everyone's living their best life and nothing has ever been better for Americans ever in history. It can't be both things at the same time. Tom Emmer is on the line of saying that everything is wonderful. That is despite the fact that JD Vance just said Joe Biden made it really bad. Which one is it?
Affordability question. And we're going to talk to Jameson Greer in just a little bit about tariffs. So one of the things that the administration seems to be doing is trying to work out some new deals on tariffs to lower the price of things like bananas, coffee, and other things. Wouldn't you suggest, in terms of affordability, if that is actually an issue, that tariffs made it less affordable for Americans?
Actually, Andrew, while I appreciate the way your perspective on the question, the fact is It was Democrats under Joe Biden who pumped $2 trillion into the economy with something called the American Rescue Plan, which economists have called the original sin. They threw the economy into the ditch. Because of that, double-digit inflation like we hadn't seen in 40 years. Donald Trump inherited this broken economy. He's been fixing it. I'll tell you what.
The question is whether you think the question is whether you think the tariffs are helping it.
I think he has been winning on the tariffs, without a doubt.
Winning in terms of the price for Americans that they're paying for goods?
Donald Trump and his administration
because of the
have
tariffs.
driven down costs on groceries. Gas is at a 5-year low, Andrew.
Then why are we making new deals why are we making new deals on coffee and bananas and other things?
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but it's not a one-way street. This is about giving our producers access to markets that they have been denied over the years. This is about fairness. This is about putting Americans first. I think Donald Trump has been negotiating better than any president in our history in terms of trying to make sure that Americans not only have the things that they want and they can afford them, but that we have access to other markets. That
when Speaker Johnson said,
when you get asked a question that you can't answer, you just blow right by it. You notice he didn't answer the question about coffee and bananas that Scott Bessent and Donald Trump I covered it yesterday. They both said they're going to reverse some tariffs on some things so that they can get some prices down, which if you're listening clearly enough, you'd understand that that means they're admitting that the tariffs that they placed on those items make things more expensive, which is in direct contradiction to the things that they've been preaching all year, even during last year when he was campaigning, that tariffs are going to make everything great. And of course, it's capped with Tom Emmer saying that everything is down. How is it that everything is down if they need to change some tariffs in order to get prices down on things? How is it that you can go to the gas station, see the price, and then listen to Tom Emmer's dumbass go on TV and tell you that what you just saw is not what you saw? That is right after Donald Trump said that if you say what you saw is what you saw, that it's a hoax and you're a con man. They're losing the argument. It's pretty obvious that they're losing the argument. But the problem is they don't care that they're losing the argument. I mentioned Marjorie Taylor Greene earlier. She won't cross Donald Trump, but she'll cross them on these types of topics. Here she is crossing them again.
And so gaslighting the people and trying to tell them that prices have come down is not helping. It's actually infuriating people because people know what they're paying at the grocery store. They know what they're paying for their kids' clothes and school supplies. They know what they're paying for their electricity bills. And so that approach does not work. We need compassion and show that we care about the American people and show that we are in the trenches with them on what they're going through. That's first and foremost. You don't gaslight them, you don't lecture them, and you don't deny what's happening. And so
she's calling out the gaslighting. I wonder if she's going to call out the fact that the gaslighting is coming from the top. I wonder if she's going to point out the fact that people are frustrated with Donald Trump because he continues to gaslight them and tell them that what she just said is hoax material, that they're conning folks, that things really aren't as bad as they are. That is, until we're in an interview, we can say things are worse than what we just said they were, so that we can then say it was Biden's fault. Here's another one of these guys. But Fox News here was actually pointing out the dire situation here based off of people's jobs and also the price of things.
And Bill, I think, we can show our viewers on the chart, really the heart of what Vice President Vance is talking about is this fact that you do have inflation. You can see on this chart here, inflation outpacing wage growth for lower and middle class income. What do you make of it?
Well, I think the vice president was right. I think it's somewhere in an interview he said the Democrats are right that it's a crisis of affordability.
And Bill,
I don't know if Bill is drinking or not, but he definitely didn't sound like he was on his up and up. Maybe it's a condition, so I apologize. He just didn't sound a little slurry there. But as we saw there, middle and lower class income wage increases aren't keeping pace with inflation. We've heard that a lot, except we kept hearing it from those crazy libs that actually want to represent folks that weren't, donors or rich people that were paying people to ignore everyone else and exploit them for more of their money and make sure that their wages don't go up. I remember there was minimum wage legislation that was supposed to raise it, and they said that was like some socialist craziness, communism, Marxism. They said anything that they could about anyone having a livable wage, or maybe even housing prices or rent price is actually doing something that is workable for people. But they kept telling you that McDonald's and Burger King jobs are only for teenagers. That is, unless you go to your local McDonald's or Burger King and notice there's a 45-year-old, 50-year-old, 60-year-old working. I went to a Subway sandwich shop, and I like, ever since they've been talking this nonsense, I've been very consciously trying to notice the types of folks that work these jobs. There was two, I wouldn't even call them elderly because I don't like saying it that way, but they were definitely over 60 years old working this Subway shop. But they want to keep telling you that the wages are great and these entry-level jobs are only for your 16-year-old kid trying to get by and, maybe buy a couple video games and a basketball on the weekend, that's all that these jobs are for. So since, actual life is outpacing the pricing of things, which also includes things like healthcare and people having children and all that type of stuff, the next step is to start ignoring those things. Ignore how bad the job market is. Ignore how bad unemployment has become. And let's not forget again, it's been months since this administration came in and dismantled the measuring stick for things like employment numbers, job numbers, and all the economic numbers coming from the Department of Labor statistics. So here's Kevin Hassett. See if you can guess how long this whole blackout will be, and if we're going to get the numbers for October, because they kept saying things are going to get wonderful once they eliminate those.
And the household survey wasn't conducted in October, so we're going to get half the employment report. We'll get the jobs part, but we won't get the unemployment rate, and that'll just be for 1 month. But yeah, it is true that we probably will maybe be able to concoct something, but we'll never actually know for sure what the unemployment rate was in October. And the household.
They're never going to know the unemployment rate for October. They're never going to know what the job numbers are. We're never going to be able to figure this out. You know why? It's because of those damn Democrats. Those damn Democrats kept screwing things up. Now everything in our power for the past year means nothing. Maybe you guys should take reign of your positions now and figure this whole thing out. And the fact that Kevin Hassett said it isn't just a one-off. It's part of the talking point.
Month of October, I mean, one could make the argument that the shutdown impacted October business. So, I mean, is that a moment in time, a look at what happened in October because things were shut down and companies couldn't get permits and IPOs couldn't go public and we couldn't do filings, et cetera, et cetera. That in and of itself dictated the economic activity of the month of October. And that was a slice in time. Does it change come November, December, January?
Yeah, you don't get that time back. That's exactly what I believe that you are saying. Sometimes it's too late to get accurate data points. And like I said, the household surveys were not able to be done and businesses submitted the passive information. So is it a little too late? It's similar to the Fed a little too late on these interest rate drops. I'm looking forward to the December report on that they will again step up as the president has oftentimes asked them to pay attention to. But again, because of the Democratic shutdown, we don't have that accurate data for them to make a good decision. But I believe that the Fed needs to cut the interest rates again in December to really prop up this economy that the president has been so forceful in by bringing the trillions of dollars, by the Department of Labor really looking at the skilled workforce. And now this is one more way for the Fed to help out the American people because of this Democratic shutdown. 43 days going on 44. This is detrimental to the markets and to the American people.
Well,
it's those pesky Democrats again and their government shutdown that didn't allow these guys to do their job as far as show you what it is that happened. They're never going to be able to do it again. Never going to work again. We can't get those accurate points ever again. So as Kevin Hassett said, they're going to have to concoct something. That was always the plan anyway. They just need to have some kind of cover to make sure that they said they're concocting it because it's someone else's fault, as usual. So that's how this is going to all go down now. That's the way this is going to operate. All right, that's it. So as we see November and December and all that stuff happen next, we'll see what they come up with, whatever lies they can tell, or whoever else they can blame for it next. But since she talked about the trillions of dollars that Donald Trump has coming in and that the Fed should then now start cutting more rates, I'm not sure if they know people realize this. If the Fed is cutting rates, it's to help out because people are in bad situations. But it's a golden era. He's bringing in $21 trillion. Yet do we need to cut the Fed rate so we can help Americans struggling during the golden era? Just listen to them for longer than 5 seconds, and you'll see how little sense they make. All right, you guys. I hope you guys have a great weekend. I'm gonna try and detach this, but I won't, because I feel like some shit is gonna hit the fan over the weekend, like it usually does. Hopefully, it'll be a quiet weekend, and we'll come back on Monday and maybe have some new developments that are decent and positive. But I'm never expecting it. We'll see what happens next. I didn't even get to touch on the fact that we just might start a war this weekend, down in Venezuela. We just might start a war, and we're positioning ourselves to start a whole bunch more of them. Be ready for that, especially as we get more and more details about the pedophiles that they're protecting through the Epstein file cover up. That's definitely going to be the next distraction. Let's start bombing things. They're ready for that too. Sorry I didn't get to that. We'll catch you guys on Monday. It'll be the best damn day of the week. All you late partiers, go ahead. If you head over to TDR, tell them that we were a little bit late. And, we're feeling good about ourselves, though. So deal with it, brother. We'll catch you guys on Monday. Have a good weekend, everybody.